There ain't nobody tied up in the basement.
Can we look?
No, but
why not?
Because I say so.
Is someone tied up down there?
No.
What's your name, buddy?
I can't tell you that, bro.
What do you mean you can't tell me that? Is this your truck?
My dump truck, that's my company truck. That's
yeah.
There's nothing going on.
Is it in your name?
No.
Well, why don't you want to tell us who you are?
I'm trying to tell you I'm a confidential informant.
That was Dalontay Edmond-Geiger Sr. denying not having anything going on in his apartment. The officers from the Cleveland Police Department received a distress call on May 2nd, 2023 from a neighbor who heard faint haunting moans from his apartment.
Girl tied up in your basement.
Of course, because she's never been
Okay,
in.
is he going to be for sure?
Yes.
How do I know?
So how does he know?
Yeah, how does he
He
know?
said he's never been here. How does he know there's not a girl tied up?
Well, so I guess you guys are going to take the crackhead's word off the mouth. Nobody knows.
Listen, we're standing here. If we were just going to do what we were going to do, we wouldn't be standing here.
I understand that. Sorry, what I really need
What
you
I'm
to
trying
do
to
is just
do-
take my word. There's nobody in my...
That's not how it works.
I understand how it works.
That's not
You
how it
don't,
works.
because you're saying you want us to do that, but that isn't.
I understand.
That's not how it works.
You guys want it to work the way you want it to work.
No.
And it's not.
We're telling you the law. All right. If we wanted it to work the way we wanted it to work, we'd already be in there.
Looked in the basement.
Yeah, we'd have probably looked in the basement,
Yeah,
and you'd be in the car. So, but we're not. We're actually taking the time to figure out what you're doing. All right.
I'm trying to...
And we're trying to protect you because if somebody made a false claim about you, then...
Yeah, that's what it is. That's all it is.
But here we are,
and
right?
I know I overreacted.
Yes, you did.
But like I just say, I'm on probation. I got jammed up by Detective Sims not too long ago. You feel me? And this is the first time. This is the first time somebody's made a complaint. This is the first time 5 cops pulled up on my house while I was working with him. Okay, so like this is the first time. I'm overreacting. I'm sorry. Hands in my pants. I know I'm overreacting, bro.
I know. Well, how goes my sergeant? He's got some.
I know I'm overreacting. I deeply
here.
apologize about that. Like I said, I was.
But do you understand our point at least?
Listen, I totally understand. I totally understand. I swear to God I do. You know what I'm saying? I'm not gonna bull you guys. I was with him yesterday at from 5 to 6:30. You know what I'm saying? I'm just trying to get off probation and out of Cleveland. There's gonna be people talking about me for the boom. He jammed me up, breaking the law. So yeah, people are gonna be mad.
We aren't here, and we're not here to jam you up. We're just trying to make sure somebody's safe.
Everybody's safe. I can guarantee you that.
All right, so usually when we find when people don't want us to do certain things,
no, it ain't about that.
But then that makes us have to linger because
hey, y'all gonna leave. Y'all can linger. I didn't have to come to the door. You know what I'm saying? I didn't have to.
You didn't.
I didn't have to come outside.
You didn't.
You know, so I could let you knock. But I'm an honest man.
All right.
I want to let you guys know what's going on.
You have to understand, though. We would have just knocked and left and said nothing.
But y'all would have been knocking for
No. Somebody else would have showed up, or somebody more policemen would have come.
The sound was scary and was coming from his place, but the police could not tell where, and Mr. Dalontay Edmond-Geiger Sr. spent a lot of time trying to convince them he was an undercover detective working for the police. After having no evidence and no cause to break into his house, the police left only to return again at night, and what they found broke the internet. Another person has called in and claimed there was something really fishy going on at Mr. Dalontay Edmond-Geiger Sr. apartment, and here is the account of the call.
He stabbed her in the right arm, and he beat her so bad she could open her eyes. But Gilby said he kept feeding her crack to keep her alive, but he beat her for 3 hours and then murdered her.
When the police returned that evening, they were shocked and broken to have heard a voice crying out for help from Mr. Dalontay Edmond-Geiger Sr. apartment.
There's some blood right here. There's some blood, like dried blood. Police! All right. Yeah, I heard him sliding something under there when he went from the front to the back.
Where you at?
Where you at, man?
A 60-year-old woman, barely clinging to life, was stuffed inside a black plastic tote. Her body was a canvas of pain. Stab wounds, bruises, and blood soaked into the cold plastic. She was barely conscious. Her shallow breath, the only sign that she still lived. In that instant, the officers realized something chilling. This wasn't just an assault. This was murder in motion. What they couldn't have known was that the woman in that tote wasn't just a victim. She was a survivor. A woman whose will to live would defy every expectation. whose strength would become the cornerstone of a case that would rock a city to its core. Nearby, standing seemingly unbothered, was Dalontay Edmond-Geiger Sr., a man whose name would soon be etched into the narrative of one of Cleveland's most gruesome crimes. When the officers approached him, they found him oddly calm, too calm for someone in the midst of such chaos. He was promptly taken into custody, though at that moment, no one truly understood the depths of the crime he had committed. Why had he done this? What led him to violently assault a woman?
Gonna die if I didn't hold her for like 2 days and tell her, like, let her know what was going on. Gonna kill her. Feel like they've been dead. Long story short, if I wanted to kill her, she would have been dead.
So
facts.
So you're questioning her about it. She keeps lying, denying
Yeah.
everything.
I beat her up. I fed her, showered her, to all type of weird shit. Made sure she ate. But I just could not let her go back on the streets and tell everybody that I was working for y'all.
To leave her in a tote like trash. His demeanor was unsettling. He didn't seem surprised nor remorseful, as if the horror had barely registered in his mind. The air was thick with questions, and as the scene unfolded, investigators were left with more than they could handle. Days passed. Investigators combed through the evidence. There was the semen found on the victim's clothing. There were bloody handprints on the tote. But there was a gaping hole in the case. Motive. The woman hadn't known Edmond-Geiger.
She's always at my house smoking though.
Okay.
Sometimes I take care of everybody on the streets. All the fiends.
They had no history, no shared connections. The victim, still clinging to life in the hospital, couldn't provide any clarity. The assault had been so violent, so sudden. She had no recollection of the events leading up to it. She couldn't speak, couldn't articulate the nightmare she had just endured. Then, the unthinkable happened. The breakthrough that would change everything. The DNA results came back. It was a 1 in a billion match. The semen found on the victim's clothing wasn't just a match. It was Dalontay Edmond-Geiger's DNA. At that moment, the case transformed from a mystery into a shocking certainty. The truth was inescapable. Edmond-Geiger was the perpetrator. The question no longer was if he had committed the crime, but why.
Punched on her, slapped on her, tell her to. Punched on her, slapped on her, punched on her, slapped on her. Punched on her, slapped on her, moved her from the basement to another room. Fed her, showered her, gave her some water, put a blanket over her. I'm just telling you the truth, bro.
No, that's fine.
Was I no.
Okay.
Was that what you about to ask me?
No,
I thought you about to ask me.
No, like, were you giving her drugs and stuff like that?
Why would I give her my drugs? Why don't I do that? Man.
I didn't know.
Hell no.
All right. So at any point was she asking to leave, different things like that?
She has nowhere to go.
Okay.
She has nowhere to go. All she was just asking was why. Stop, I won't do it again. I'll never tell. I'll never tell, Blas, please. I'll never tell. I know I deserve this, but I'll never tell.
The arrest had already taken place. But now, the investigation moved forward with renewed vigor. With a DNA match in hand, investigators could build the case, connecting Edmond-Geiger directly to the crime. It was no longer speculation. It was proof. The victim's family, waiting anxiously for news, finally had their first taste of justice. But there was still so much to uncover. What motivated this cold-blooded attack? Was Edmond-Geiger's calm demeanor simply a sign of guilt, or was it something more? The family hoped for answers, but deep down, they feared that some questions would remain forever unanswered. The case moved to trial. The courtroom was tense, a mixture of grief and anger filling the air. Edmond-Geiger's defense attorneys tried to sow doubt, questioning the victim's ability to remember the events due to her severe injuries. But the DNA, the irrefutable proof of his involvement, made it impossible for the defense to argue their way out of the truth. The prosecution had their case. They didn't need to rely on the victim's testimony as much as they wanted it. The evidence spoke for itself. But then, as the court drama unfolded, the unthinkable happened again. Edmond-Geiger, in a twist that surprised even his defense, entered a guilty plea. The attempted murder charge was dropped as part of the deal. The case was effectively sealed, but for the victim's family, there was no true victory in this plea. They had wanted a full trial, a chance to hear the defendant face the consequences of his actions in full. But the plea deal meant they were left with something far more complex: justice without closure. Still, 16 to 20 years in prison was a sentence that brought some sense of finality to the case. The victim's family sat in the courtroom, hearing the judge pronounce the sentence. It was a bittersweet moment of relief, knowing that Dalontay Edmond-Geiger Sr. would spend years behind bars for his crimes. Yet, no amount of time could undo the damage done to their loved one. In an emotional Zoom call to the courtroom, the victim addressed her attacker one final time. "I will never be his victim, because he is a victim of himself. I am also not a survivor, but I live, and through that I continue to live." Her words echoed in the courtroom, a haunting reminder of the strength it takes to survive a crime that defies all logic. The story of Dalontay Edmond-Geiger Sr., the man who nearly destroyed a life, became one of survival. Survival for the victim, and for the justice system that held him accountable. It became a story about the power of forensic evidence, about a community's resilience, and about the strength of a woman who refused to be defined by the horrors she had suffered. As the dust settled, Cleveland reflected on the events that had unfolded. This wasn't just a crime, it was a wake-up call. A reminder that no one is truly safe. A reminder that crimes like this can happen anywhere. But it was also a testament to the strength of a community, the power of the legal system, and the critical importance of forensic science in solving the toughest cases. What would happen next? The trial was over, but the journey of healing was just beginning for the victim. Will she ever recover fully? Will the community move past this tragedy? Or will the scars remain? And the ultimate question, what drives someone to commit such a horrific act? Will we ever truly understand why? The story isn't over. It's only just begun. If you like stories like this and want to keep up with true crime documentaries, like, share, and subscribe to this channel now. We don't just tell stories, we keep history alive and ensure justice served is promoted for all to see.
Line.
Who's on the line? All you had to do was talk to us. You're the one who came outside.
Y'all don't know what's going on, baby boy. That's all I'm saying.
Listen,
I got
once
drug
again,
dealers and everything that drive past it, and I got 5 cars out here. I'm trying to tell you, I work for you guys. That's what I'm trying to tell you.
Then this guy would be calling us.
Who? Detective Smith? Detective
Yeah.
Smith? He don't know you here yet. I'm about to call him and tell him to get all these cars from away from the
Well,
house.
he's not really in charge of us.
Man, I know he ain't, but I'm trying to tell you, I'm working with y'all, bro.
All right,
Look,
but are you working right this second?
right now, I work for you guys for the rest of my life. What are you talking about, bro? Look.
Listen, I believe you. I believe you.
You're trying to get me killed.
No,
and that's
I'm
why I'm
not.
tripping out.
Because
my life is on the line.
Just
So what do you
relax.
think? Look.
Just relax, guy.
Look.
All right, I know who he is.
Dead.
All right.
I've been dead.
I'm telling you right now.
And I'm telling you right now, I've been
And I'm
talking to
telling
him
you
all
right
now. I'm telling you right now, I gotta give him 10 guns on Thursday, man.
I don't know
tripping.
anything about that.
Look, this I talk to him all day
Listen,
long.
I don't have my glasses, guy.
I don't. Detective, we working, bro. I got 10 guns for you. Max silence, 2 Glocks, 2 Drakes, AR-15. Y'all need to get out of here before y'all blow this up. For real. That's all I have to say.
Unfortunately, we wouldn't be here unless it was important.
I understand that, but I've already told y'all everything is cool and I'm working with you guys.
All right, but we still have to do
Guys,
we still have to follow up.
Before I'm dead, before the end of the day.
Well, my sergeant asked you before. Can we just look in the basement and we'll be on our way?
No, you guys cannot go in my house.
All right, well.
No, I'm not letting you guys in my house. I'm sorry.
All right.
No, dude.
All right.
You're about to get me killed out this.
But why are you acting this way?
You understand why I'm acting this way, dude? No.
I really don't, because it's
I
like
have 5 cops out here, bro.
All right, but
and
you
I'm
only
a
had
confidential informant, and
you only had 2, and you didn't even have to tell us that. You could have just talked to us like a normal person, and we wouldn't have known, and we'd have just walked away. But you're out here screaming it to the whole neighborhood. We have not said anything about what you do.
I told you I was working for you guys. I asked you to turn the cameras off because I'm a confidential informant.
But right now you're not.
Dude, I'm on the clock all day, every day.
No, that's not really how that works.
I'm trying to tell you, all right?
All right.
I swear to God, bro, I'm sorry for overreacting, but God, I just started working for you guys, so like this here.
Well, why would somebody, okay, then tell us this.
I don't know
why would somebody call and give this specific address and even say the one with the red door? Doesn't that sound weird? Now, if we go away and something happened, now we're all in trouble.
I understand that. I understand where you're coming from. People.
And what do you think, what would Detective Smith tell you right now?
To be cool, calm, and collective, and let them know what's going on, and hopefully they leave when they tell you.
I know, but
you tell
him the whole story about everything else that
I'm
happened.
gonna tell him, bro. I'm 100% honest with you.
Well, tell him why we are here.
Yeah, tell him why we were here.
My life and freedom is on the
So
line.
you won't tell him why we're here?
I'm gonna tell him. You want me to call him right now? You think I'm a bull with you?
Listen.
You think I'm bull? You want me to call him right now and tell him what's going on?
Right now we're just trying to figure out what's going on, sir.
There's
I mean, you're the
nothing
one.
going
You're
on.
acting a little.
What's going on is you guys had a crackhead Oscar play.
All right.
Okay.
Well, that's an answer.
That's it.
Well, then we still have to follow up on it.
There's nothing going on, sir.
All right, but do you understand our point?
I understand your point. You're asking
If we just walk away and somebody actually is there, what are we going to do?
Well, that's what you guys are going to have to do because I'm not letting you inside.
So do you see where the problem lies?
No, there is no problem.
We don't just write, he said it's cool, and we leave.
Well, that's how it goes because if I don't
No,
let
that's
you
not.
So how what do you mean? Listen.
So they're not going to let this go.
No, listen.
So either today, tomorrow, the next day, in the next 5 minutes, you're going to continuously have these problems. And if we have to call Detective Smith and say, hey, do you think this guy would have a girl tied up in his basement?
He's going to say no.
Is he?
100%, bro.
He's willing to risk his career for all that?
You think I'm bored? Oh my gosh, you're going to take a crackhead's word over Detective Smith's word, right?
I haven't spoken to Detective Smith.
Well, you're going to talk to him. He's going to let you know what's going on. I was down there for an hour with him yesterday.
Okay.
I just left my probation officer.
But why would somebody say
crackheads?
But why would a crackhead say that about you?
They're crackheads, but probably because they want more crack, bro.
Do you have crack?
No, I'm not going to. Why would I say that? Why would you ask me that on camera?
I don't know.
Why do you do that to me? I know I don't have no crack.
It's my job. Well, why would the crackhead be here then?
This man is wild.
I'm not wild. I'm just asking questions.
I am a confidential informant. Bro.
What does that convey, though? A confidential informant usually has the policeman or officer or detective with them when they're working. That's kind of how that works.
I understand what you're saying, but what I am saying.
And then most confidential informants don't come screaming out the back door. I'm a confidential informant, do they?
Dude, listen, but what I'm saying, I'm gonna let you guys know this. I want you guys to know what's going on in my backyard. Okay, this is what happened. This is what's going on.
Okay.
Okay, listen to me. I'm not doing nothing illegal here, but I work for you guys.
That's what you said for the last 10, 15 minutes.
There's nothing going on. Please do your please do your homework and research.
I have no homework and I have no research.
Call Detective Smith.
And what's he going to tell me?
He's going to tell you that I am valid and everything is okay.
At approximately 3 p.m. on May 2nd, 2023, Cleveland police officers were dispatched to a house on West 97th Street in response to a welfare check request. The caller had reported seeing a woman in distress on the porch, making faint moaning sounds, and suspected something was terribly wrong. Upon arrival, officers found the woman inside a small black plastic tote, covered in blood and showing signs of significant physical trauma.
The first time the police came, you said you moved her upstairs, right? And then she was upstairs. Obviously, the second time the police came, she was in that tote, right? How did that go down in between there?
Well, they really wanted to check upstairs.
Right, but I'm saying, how did she get in there?
I put her in there.
Okay.
And put her downstairs and put her on the porch.
The events surrounding Dalontay Edmond-Geiger Sr. S. crime raised important questions about the nature of violence and the role that forensic evidence plays in solving such cases. While the victim's family focused on supporting her recovery, the broader community was left grappling with the implications of the crime and the lessons it taught. One of the key lessons from this case was the importance of forensic evidence in solving violent crimes. The DNA match that ultimately led to Edmond-Geiger's arrest was a critical breakthrough in the investigation. The power of DNA technology to link perpetrators to crimes was central to securing a conviction in this case. Forensic evidence not only played a vital role in the investigation, but also helped ensure that justice was served. This case also highlighted the need for continued awareness and prevention efforts related to violent crime and domestic violence. While the victim and her family faced immense hardship, their story brought attention to the broader issue of violence against women and the importance of supporting survivors of such crimes. Local organizations that provide counseling, legal services, and support for victims were crucial in helping the family navigate the aftermath of the crime. The case served as a reminder of the importance of community support in the recovery process and the need for systemic changes to address violence and its long-term effects on victims. As Cleveland, and indeed the wider community, processed the events of the case, discussions began about how to prevent similar crimes from occurring in the future. Advocacy for better support systems, law enforcement training, and education around issues of violence against women became more prominent. Many advocates called for increased resources for victim services, including accessible mental health care and legal support, to help individuals and families recover from the trauma of violent crimes. While Dalontay Edmond-Geiger Sr. was sentenced to 16 to 20 years in prison in November 2023, the impact of his crime continues to be felt by the victim, her family, and the Cleveland community. The legal aftermath of the case reflects a system that, despite its successes, still has gaps that need to be addressed in terms of preventing violence and supporting victims. The case also served as a reminder of the need for ongoing reforms in the justice system to ensure that perpetrators of violent crimes are held accountable and that victims are provided with the resources they need to recover. For the victim's family, the conclusion of the legal proceedings was a bittersweet moment. While they were grateful for the conviction, they knew that their loved one's physical and emotional recovery would take years. The family's focus remained on supporting the victim as she navigated the challenges of living with the aftermath of such a violent attack. The case also highlighted the critical role that community support plays in the recovery of victims. The Cleveland community's response to the crime was overwhelmingly positive, with individuals and organizations offering their help in every way possible. This solidarity became a lifeline for the victim's family, who found comfort in knowing that they were not alone in their fight for justice. Early challenges in the investigation, including the victim's inability to provide a coherent statement and the lack of immediate physical evidence, made the case particularly complex. However, through the use of DNA evidence, the case took a crucial turn. The forensic breakthrough not only linked Dalontay Edmond-Geiger Sr. to the crime, but also secured the conviction that would bring justice to the victim and her family. Edmond-Geiger's arrest was a pivotal moment in the case, but it was the legal proceedings that followed that provided the public, and more importantly, the victim's family, with a sense of closure. Despite the defense's attempts to downplay the severity of the crime and challenge the evidence, the overwhelming forensic proof left little room for doubt. DNA analysis, a tool that continues to revolutionize criminal investigations, was central to ensuring accountability. The ability to match DNA found at the scene of the crime with a suspect allowed the legal system to proceed with confidence, even in the face of challenging circumstances. For the victim and her family, the events surrounding the crime left an indelible mark. The assault not only caused severe physical harm, but also left psychological scars that would take years to heal. The victim's recovery, both physical and emotional, was a long and painful process. She required 24-hour care and ongoing medical treatment for the extensive injuries she sustained, including paralysis resulting from the assault. Yet, despite the severity of the attack, the victim showed remarkable courage. She defied expectations and demonstrated an unwavering will to survive, refusing to let her assailant's actions define her. The victim's family also took steps to raise awareness about the impact of such crimes and the importance of supporting victims of violence. They organized a GoFundMe campaign to help cover the medical expenses, and they became vocal advocates for improved resources and support for survivors of violent crimes. Their efforts were not just about ensuring their loved one received the care she needed, but also about bringing attention to the broader issue of violence against women and the long-term effects it has on victims and their families. As this case draws to a close, the lessons learned from the events surrounding the brutal attack on a Cleveland woman continue to resonate. It is a reminder of the importance of justice for victims of violent crimes, the need for community support for those affected, and the role that forensic evidence plays in ensuring accountability. The victim's survival and recovery, as well as the conviction of Dalontay Edmond-Geiger Sr., show that even in the darkest of times, there is hope for justice. This case also serves as a call to action. Advocacy for victims of violence must remain a priority, and society must continue to work towards reducing violence and providing resources for those affected. As we reflect on the victim's strength and resilience, we are reminded of the need for ongoing efforts to support survivors and prevent future violence. It is crucial that we, as a community, remain vigilant and proactive in supporting those who are impacted by violent crime. Whether through legislative action, increased funding for victim services, or public awareness campaigns, we all have a role to play in building a safer and more supportive environment for those who have been affected by violence. Let this case be a reminder of the power of justice and the importance of standing together as a community to ensure that victims are heard, supported, and given the chance to heal. The fight for justice continues, and it is up to all of us to ensure that those who are affected by crime are not forgotten. If you or someone you know has been affected by violent crime, there are resources available to help. Reach out to local victim support services, participate in community discussions about crime prevention, and advocate for stronger laws to protect those who are vulnerable. Together, we can make a difference and help ensure